Hello everyone, my name is Morteza Bashsiz. I am a Linux system engineer. At this series of videos, you are going to find out how to be a good Linux system engineer. So if you want to know, stay with me. Welcome to LSE episode 13. At this episode, I will talk about important points for three directories: bin, dev, and etc. in Linux. So let's get started. Okay, at this episode, the first directory that I want to talk about is bin directory, which we know that is related to binary files in Linux. We know that everything in your operating system, which is running as a process or program, like your browser, like your commands that you are using in your terminal, must have a binary or executable file in somewhere in your operating system. So everything in your operating system which is running is a process. It doesn't matter. It could be your command, it could be a program like your, for example, Firefox, or a command like the simple commands like ls or everything which is running on your operating system must have an executable file in somewhere in your operating system. And also we know that we have bin directories or spin directories. It could be different in different distributions, but generally I'm talking about the bin directories in everywhere in your operating system, that you use them to store some executable files which you want to execute to do something in your operating system. Here I want to show you some examples. For example, if I ask my operating system raise my ls command, it answers that okay, it is under usr bin directory, and I am going to copy the usr bin ls to usr bin for example list dir cp. And if I run the list dir, exactly is the same that I am running the ls command. So it's binary, it doesn't matter what is the name, you can use whatever you want as the name of your binary files. Or in another case, imagine that I make a new directory in srv. For example, I'm going to create a project by the name of arsenal, and yeah, in srv arsenal I am going to, for example, imagine that usr bin list directory to here. I created a binary file here, and I want to use it as a command in my operating system. In your shell, which I am using bash right now, you have environment called path. Here you can see that this is the environment which defines the location of your binary files. Okay, and what happens when I run the ls command? I didn't give the full path of this command. I didn't specify, okay, here I use usr bin ls command to see / it will work like this, but when I run the ls command, I didn't specify the full path of this binary. And the reason that my shell, the bash that I am using, is able to execute the commands without their full path location, I mean in your operating system, is because of this environment. Echo $path. Yeah, this environment defines that when you want to run a command, then your shell will search this command under these directories, and you can see that usr bin is defined here. Now all my binary files exist at this directory in my project, and I want to use it as well as running the ls command. So what should I do? I should add this directory to this variable environment in my shell, in my bash that I am using. So for doing this, export path equal path column my new directory. And if I again echo the path, you can see that this directory has been added to my environment. Then if I run the list directory, it will execute and it will search to find this binary at the locations that I have defined at this environment. And please pay attention that everything, every command, every binary, every script that you want to use as an executable file must have execute permission to be able to execute, I mean. So if I remove the execute permission from my binary file, then if I run the command, it will say me that okay, the permission denied for executing this binary file. So we have to specify the execute permission to the binary or file or a script, doesn't matter, that we want to execute. And one another thing, that this environment is not permanent. It is available and it is valid since I am logged in at this shell. If I exit from this shell and again log in, you can see that it's disappeared from my environment. And there are several ways and to make your environments permanent, but I will not talk about them at this episode. I will talk about the bash and shell environment specifically in another episode in future. So it was the bin directory. So it depends to the shell that you are using, but for bash, bash is the most popular and common shell, especially in server-side distributions like Debian and Red Hat. The bash is default shell in your operating system. And here we have a $sign path, which defines the location of your directories, which defines that okay, my binary files exist at this directory. The next directory that I want to talk about is dev directory. We know that this directory is for the devices which are connected to your system, like devices like your printer and the others. Sound card, your mouse, your keyboard, your camera, which is connected with your USB port, and the others. And also there are some special files at this directory, which these files are not real. These files are virtual. They don't belong to some devices, like null file, like random file, and also the other. Each device which is connected to your system will be separated into different main categories: character device or block device. So your device is character device or block device. Character devices means that input and output to this device happens in a string, character by character, and in block device, input and output for this device happens in block. I mean, for example, if I want to say some examples for your character device, your sound card is kind of character device, and your storage, your HDDs or your SSDs are example for block device. Now, the first file I want to talk about it is dev null, which is a special file, and here you can see that this is a character device file, and it points to null exactly. And if you for example send something into this file, it will be disappeared and vanished. I mean, it will usually to send some output that you don't want to see it in a file, you don't want to store it, you don't want to, you don't need the output. So sending the output to dev null could be a good idea, because by doing this you will completely purge your output from anywhere, and it will not take any memory, it will not store in any file, and this is just like a black hole. And you redirect, you send your output to this file, and then it's vanished and disappeared. For example, if I show you something, I want to execute some command with user www data, for example, to list root directory, and it gets some standard error. Then if I can send the standard error of this command to, for example, dev null, then you can see that the command has no output. Or in another example, if I list the etc directory, you can see that I have a standard error at output, and also the standard output in my screen, and I can redirect the standard output to dev null. It was the etc command. Then the output will not print in my screen, but the standard error is also here. Next file that I want to talk about it is another special file, dev random. Yeah, this file, dev random, is also a character device file, and if I cat dev random, you can see that it will generate the random output in my screen. Actually, this file is used to generating some random strings. For example, if you want to create a 16 character random string and to use your password, for example, it could be a good choice. For example, if I use this string from 0 to 9, and as the output use dev random, and also with running this command you can see that it gets choose the only this pattern that I specified here, and here you can see that uppercase letters, lowercase letters, and also the numbers. And with head, for example, I don't know, 16 characters. Here I have 16 characters generated, and if I want to have it in separated line, it's good idea to echo empty character. Then here I have, you can see that in any time that I execute it, it will generate a different and random string for me. The next file that I want to talk about it is another special file, dev0. This file is also a character device file, and it used to generate null, exactly the 0 and null characters. So for example, if you had 10 character from dev0, you can see that the output is nothing. And if I read, I don't know how much is it, 10 million character from 0 file, and also you can see that it will take some long time if I read more characters. For example, in my case, if I use the dd command to generate a file, and I put the dev0 as it input file, and output file, for example, tmp test.0, block size 1 megabyte, and count, for example, 100 or 1000. You can see that it will read from dev0 and write to this file by this specifications, block size 1 megabyte and 1000 time. Then if I list the tmp test0 file, you can see that I have 1000 megabytes of file, which if I for example write it is a data file, and cat this file, it could be exactly nothing, but the size is about 1 gigabyte. So the next file that I want to talk about it is /dev kmsg. This file is also a character device file which contains the kernel message. And for example, if I run the dmesg command and tail the 10 lines, for example, you can see that my last line is PL4 support detected, and with cat dev kmsg, yeah, you can see that exactly the same line, I mean. And it could be useful if in some cases that your commands are not working, the mesh or the other, but you can read also the logs from here. And what is the mesh or the log files? We will talk about them later, but just it's good to know that what is this file. Next thing is a directory, dev char, and also dev block, that I will talk about them right now. As we talked about it, we have two type of devices in dev directory, character device and block device. And these directories are used to, these directories, char and block, are used to put the different files in the different directory. I mean, just for categorizing the files. So if I list dev block, I can see that there are some links, some files that they are linked to /dev inside the /dev directory, and all of them are block devices. For example, if I run the ls-l command dev, for example, sr0, you can see that this is block device, and the same for char. Yeah, here all of them are character device. For example, you can see that 0 or random, or the others are here. So these directories are used only for categorizing your devices into different category, character and block. The next directory that I want to talk about it is /dev/disk, this directory. Yeah, this directory is used to sort your disks based on different characteristic. I mean, if I change my directory to this directory and run the tree command, you can see that it sorts my disks based on by ID, by part UUID, by path, and by UUID. And if I run the blkid command, you can see that, okay, I have the VDB1, VDA1, VDA5 with these IDs, and yeah, they are the same IDs here, and also by part UUID here are the same. And yeah, this is kind of sorting, and all of them are pointing to a file from your dev directory, I mean. So if, for example, I run the ls-l command in dev directory VDA1, you can see that, yeah, this is the block device, and yeah, exactly, it's the same file. The next directory that I want to talk about it is /dev/input. To have a better feeling for this directory, I will use my own machine, my local, not this virtual machine. Then if I change my directory to dev input, you can see that yeah, there are some categories and some character devices here, and different directories by ID and by path. So if I run the tree command here, you can see my input devices based on ID and based on path, and all of them are pointed to the current directory, to one of these files. For example, I want to, yeah, you can see that by ID I have a mouse here, an event mouse, USB Logitech, USB optical, blah 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 blah, and I want to cat this file. Okay, then cat by ID, and this is for my mouse device. And if I move my mouse, yeah, here you can see that it generates the files here, and this is exactly a character device for my Logitech mouse, which is connected to my system by USB. And the same for keyboard. For my keyboard, logical USB, yeah, keyboard event. If I cat this file, you can see that when I push some buttons randomly, that it generates the files here. So this is my the related file to my keyboard. So we understand that how the dev directory works and what kind of files exist here. And yeah, the next directory that I want to talk about it is directory etc, which contains the mostly and usually all the configurations to everything inside your operating system. Should be exist at this directory by default. For example, in previous episode that I talked about the grub bootloader, and there was a file which I was able to configure my bootloader by manipulating that file. So by default, all configuration files exist at this directory, and this is really made an important directory. And if I show you in my Linux, you can see that there are several files and directories to configure your system, your services. For example, the default directory that we manipulated for grub is here. For your systemd, the main process of your Linux, for sysctl, which is the main configuration for your kernel. I mean, everything for related to your kernel can be configured by this file, or for example, for services like SSH, we have directory by default here, and everything for configuration is by default at this directory. Also, some main files like passwd, which belongs to your users, which defines at this system, and also the shadow file. These files are important and so sensitive, and also it is good to have some monitoring on these files, if they touched, then yeah, we should be notified to see that what process and which process, which service, and who actually touched these files. And yeah, and also yeah, everything for your cron daemons here, and you can see that there are several files and directories to configure your operating system and your services. Yeah, and that's it. So in this directory, some main configurations for services for your Linux kernel, parameters for security configurations, and everything related to your operating system should be found by default at this directory. Yeah, and we are done. Thank you for watching this episode. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and also share this episode with your friends. Till next episode, bye.